everyone! So in today's video, you can see I'm not wearing any makeup because we are going to be talking about how to get an uber smooth, flawless base. And I'm going to be showing you guys kind of my technique, everything that goes into getting the foundation onto the skin, because let me tell you, if I rolled out of bed and just threw on a foundation, it would not look great. There's definitely some prep, and there are tips and tricks that I found over the years that really have helped me kind of perfect that flawless looking base, a base that really melts into the skin and doesn't look like a mask. So we're talking about application, technique, and different products that I use. Number one, when you're talking about skin prep, you really want to make sure that you are exfoliating. That's something that I have found over the years. If I'm not exfoliating my skin, then you're kind of leaving your skin with this dead layer just sitting on top. And when makeup sits on dead skin, it looks not awesome. Something that I've been talking about a lot with you guys is that I actually am on a new prescription, tretinoin. And it's actually a customized formula that Dermatica created for me. So they are sponsoring this portion of the video. Their dermatology team created this formula specifically for my needs. At the end of the day, makeup can only do so much for textural issues. This is something that you see over and over again. So really making sure that you're taking care of your skin is very important. It's really important that you're taking the time to exfoliate so that your skincare is absorbing better, so that every layer goes on and truly absorbs rather than kind of sitting on top of that layer. 30 is right around the corner for me, and I've always been a huge fan of tretinoin. It is the gold standard, you guys, and I knew I wanted to start incorporating it into my daily routine. So with Dermatica, you're able to get prescription customized formulas for exactly whatever your skin need is. So again, I'm doing it to help minimize the look of fine lines, to hopefully prevent them from happening in the future, as well as just getting a very smooth, refined look to my skin. And that is something that I'm going to throw it out there. If you have used tretinoin, you know that that is something that you notice. I'm already starting to see those results. I mean, in here, this is where my pores are usually the largest, and I'm really seeing those refine. I do have some purging that's still happening, but if you've used tretinoin before, you know that that sometimes happens. So my specific formula is 0.015% tretinoin and 5% niacinamide. What I really like about this is that I was actually able to tell them too ingredients that have previously not worked for me. I thought that that was a really nice touch because we definitely know our skin. They're affordable and evidence-based, which is very important to me. You can't walk into the drugstore and get this. It is prescription strength and it's completely customized to you. And don't be afraid to invest in the process because it is worth it. You're worth it. So if you'd like to try out your customized formula with Dermatica, I will leave my link down below. You can follow that link and then use the code Amanda Z because you'll get your first month completely free, which is so awesome. And you can get 10% off your next month. I love that Dermatica is doing that. So I've been using it for 2.5 months, already seeing results. I can't wait to keep updating you guys. Okay, so number one, exfoliation is definitely key, but with exfoliation, you also need to hydrate the skin. And what I have found, at least what I have seen as I've continued my makeup journey, is that when I am not layering my skincare prep products properly, it can go downhill really fast. Try to go with the thinnest weight skincare to the thickest. And that is not only true with your skincare, it's also true as you continue on with your routine when you get into primer as well. So I'm going to quickly kind of walk you through what I would do. So number one, I would go in with a hydrating toner or essence. I find that this just gets the skin ready to receive skincare, ready to receive hydration, and it's really going to add a kind of plumping layer. Now you can totally just use your fingers for this. I'm just going to use a cotton pad so I don't get this all over my shirt, but just get the skin nice and hydrated. This is the Snail Rescue Toner from Peach Slices. You can tell that this is incredibly thin, and going thin to thick not only helps with product penetration, but it's going to help avoid pilling, and we'll get more into that in a second. So if you want to go ahead and with a serum, you can go in with something a little bit thicker. So again, this is another Peach Slices product. It's their intensive serum. This is even just a touch thicker. Always make sure that you take your skin care up under the eyes, and as you go through each step, it's important to let everything sink in. I don't know if you guys have felt this. I have definitely experienced this. The days where I'm rushing my makeup, half the time it's not going to look great. And I think that part of that is just not letting the products really sink into the skin and not giving them enough time to set onto the skin and really become one with the skin. So for example, I'm going to now go in with my sunscreen. I wear sunscreen every single day under makeup. I will apply my sunscreen onto the skin, and I love this formula because it is more of a watery kind of texture. It's very hydrating, but it's not slippy or super silicone heavy. But after I apply this, I'm going to let it sit for 15 minutes. And I know this is not what a lot of you guys might want to hear, but I think it's really important to let your sunscreen sit on your skin, fully absorb, really get the product onto the skin and blended well, and then go on with makeup. Now, like I said, this formula is very thin. It's a very thin lotion, and it's not super silicone heavy. And the reason I mentioned that to you guys and wanted to point that out is that the number one ingredient you gotta look out for when it comes to a flawless base is silicone. Now, silicone can be your best friend at achieving that really smooth look, or it can be your worst enemy. And I find that once you go too far and the pilling starts to happen, it's kind of one of those situations where you have to start over. So you can use silicone in a way that gets you a really beautiful look. You just have to know how to use it. So my number one tip is to be mindful of the different products that you're using and how they interact together. Now, a lot of this is 100% trial and error. I definitely recommend taking notes on your phone, making a mental note. This foundation, when I had this primer or SPF under it, it just completely broke up. Making those notes is super helpful, but this is what I have personally found. If I go in with quite a rich silicone heavy moisturizer, something like this is great at locking in all of your moisture, but with makeup, it creates this really intense barrier and it can immediately start to pill up. So let me give you guys kind of a visual of this texture. By the way, I still love this moisturizer. It's the one from Aveeno. The texture is this. It is more of a gel moisturizer, but you can feel there is a little silicone thing happening. It doesn't immediately melt into the skin into that kind of water cream texture. There's something slippier about it. And once you start to notice which products have that kind of texture, start to make a note and go online and take a look at the ingredients list. You know how everyone says, water and oil don't mix? Silicones don't mix with a lot of different things if there's just too much of it. I personally like to save a silicone heavy product for my foundation itself. So instead of going with something that is very silicone heavy as a primer or as your moisturizer for the day, try using something with silicone but has other emollient ingredients that really give the product richness. Try to not rely on a moisturizer that relies on silicone for that richness. So this is the Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Face Base. I have talked about this for years, you guys. You all know that. But the reason I really love it is the texture. It is a thicker sort of cream. You only need a little bit, but when you apply it onto the skin, it gives you that really pretty smooth base that a silicone heavy product typically would, but it's more hydrating. It also has shea butter. So again, don't be afraid of moisturizing the skin. It's so key with getting a flawless base to keep things moisturized. But being cognizant of the formula, I think, is really important. So I'm just going to take a little bit and apply this where I typically get dry. If I want my makeup to look super smooth, I am going in with this primer. Again, I've used it for years. This is like probably at least my fourth. And that's saying a lot because these last a long time. And I'm just applying this into those areas that I typically get dry. I always take this up under the eyes. And you'll notice I'm not taking it area right here, and you'll see why in a second. Always get around the nose. Now again, you can use your fingers like I just did, or something that if you really want to make sure that you are not getting any pilling. And something else that I really like to do is just use a sponge. Go in with the sponge. You can dot it on the face or just use it with the sponge and just press it into the skin. And I feel like as far as makeup techniques go, pressing product into the skin is by far the most underrated technique. I think we were taught for so long to blend, 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 really make sure that you're buffing. The more you buff, the more you are picking up potentially texture on your skin, potentially layers of skincare, potentially, you know, as you get into your makeup routine, other layers of makeup. This is really about using the thinnest layers and building this moisture and base. Ultimately, take your time and trust the process. So again, you guys could tell that I didn't use any right here, and that's because I also believe to get a flawless base, going in with 2 different types of primer can be really helpful for some folks. So again, I really love this for smoothing out my skin and hydrating. It's like a 2-in-1. Love this one. But I also really like the e.l.f. Power Grip if I want a tackiness. And what I like about it is that if I have any spots, this hydrates them, but it's not adding a ton of moisture, which sometimes can be problematic. And also, foundation likes to stick to it, so I find that the coverage lasts a little bit longer. You can see that it has a nice tack to it, and that is exactly what we want. Next up, this is something that I forget, and I always regret when I forget it. It is going in with a lip balm. While you are doing the rest of your makeup, your lips will be very happy if you prep them as well. Giving the lip balm time as well to really sink into the lips and plump them and hydrate them. It's the same thing that we are doing with the skin on our face. Now, getting into actual application, because I do want to just apply some foundation for you guys, I'm using the Shiseido Synchro Skin Radiant Lifting. And what you will notice with this foundation is that there is silicone in here. You don't have to be afraid of silicone. It will really give you a smooth look. But what you'll notice now as I'm applying this, these areas where I typically am a little bit drier, the product just smooths over them. And then in these areas where I have more pigmentation, the base that we have going, this foundation just immediately sticks to the skin and stays where we've put it. Which, if you deal with pigmentation, that is such a great reassuring feeling. And I am just pressing everything into the skin. We're not rubbing, we're not massaging the product in. We're working in thin layers. We don't need to add the full-on, full coverage in one layer if we want to do something more flawless. Taking our time and building up that coverage, and also using a product that already has a decent amount of pigment is important. So, you know, if you want to get some good coverage and you're using layers and layers of a light covered skin tint, every layer you put on, you run the risk of the product starting to build up. Thin layers are super, super important. So I did add some concealer under my eyes, pressed it in with a sponge. I continue those pressing motions throughout my routine, no matter the formula. So again, here I have some powder bronzer from Makeup by Mario. I'm taking a brush and I am still just pressing that product lightly into the skin. And there's something really beautiful when you're going for a more flawless base look. I think there's something really beautiful about a product like this bronzer because you can slowly build it up and it really adds this nice, perfected look on the skin. It's a very, very easy to work with product. So again, just pressing that in. We're not doing this. I mean, I'm sure it would be fine, but ideally we're trying to break that habit of feeling like we need to buff a product in order to get a good blend, because that is not the case. Now I'm going to use a little bit of Mcgrath Fleurtaious, and I'm pressing this blush right on to the cheeks, same brush, and it's going to give us this really perfected look. And I love this blush because it just has this kind of softening effect on the skin. It's about working with textures that like each other. Just the same thing as picking out a primer and a foundation that want to mesh in together, and picking skincare that wants to go ahead and work with your primer. The same thing goes with the products that you add on top. And kind of my last tip for you guys is misting the skin throughout your routine. So this is the Physicians Formula, the Essence of Healthy. I also love the MAC Magic Radiance. I recently tried that out as a recommendation from Khaki. But if you really want everything to start melting back into each other, if you feel like the layers are getting too thick, using a mist like this can actually help to make all of the layers of makeup kind of rehydrate and melt back into each other. So what I'll often do is just let this sit for a second. I'll take a notebook or a fan and just, you can also take a sponge if you'd like. And if there are certain areas where you feel like just are looking a little bit heavier, you can kind of just roll the sponge or press, and you can really focus on those areas to rehydrate them. Typically, I like to go in with foundation first and then use a little bit of concealer. You can also flip-flop it. But what I typically like to do now is that if I find that I need to conceal any areas, if there are any spots just peeking through, before I go into my eyes, I'll take a concealer, I'll concentrate on the spot, just add that coverage right there. And then I'll let it sit for the entire time I'm doing my eye makeup. And then once the product has kind of dried down, you're going to get more coverage. I do this with my concealer under the eyes as well. And then once it is dried, I'll go back in and just press it in. And I always find that I get better coverage out of my concealer that way. And I'm less likely to keep building and building up layer upon layer of concealer without, you know, the coverage actually going anywhere. All right, my friends, so those are all of my tips to getting a really flawless base. If you guys have any other questions, please let me know down below. I'm happy to help. And also remember that I do have that offer with Dramatica. You can use my link for your first month free. And thank you again to Dramatica for sponsoring this video. And thank you to you guys for supporting. I truly appreciate you guys, and I will see you in my next one.